Okay, this is going to be a review for the Sennheiser IE900. It's their new flagship single dynamic driver earphones. I think it's probably the best dynamic driver you can buy. Unfortunately, you're going to have to pay a premium for that. Let me go at the Moondrop Illumination was the one that I found to be most appealing prior. It's still a better deal by far, actually. I think that the mids on the IE900 and Illumination they're quite different, especially the upper mids area, but I like both presentations. I find the Illumination to be the closest Harman that I don't find to be fatiguing because it's got a kind of warmish, just the tuning of the Illumination is quite appealing to me. So I don't think that the mids on that or the IE900 are better than the other. They're quite different and they both do their own style very well. With my library, with guitars and vocals, there's nothing that's jumping out as being a little better than the other. They're just different, and they're both good. I think the treble is where it starts. The IE900 has more energy in the late treble, upper treble. It's kind of clear. There's more edge to certain instruments. There's more life to cymbals. I can hear hi-hats opening and shutting a little bit easier. That's related to resolution, but it's also related to the energy that's past 5K. So the treble, I think, is superior. The stage also, because of the upper treble energy, it sounds wider on stuff like Little Feat, Dixie Chicken on the Waiting for Columbus LP. I think that sounds more energetic and realistically like a live presentation than it does on the Illumination. I think usually when the treble and the stage, the resolution, whether it's fake because it's been just boosted in volume, on the amplitude scale, which is the frequency graph, this actually sounds like it's got better res than the Illumination, which is a kind of a slightly fuzzy, warm, nice presentation. Again, it's a Harman type tuning, but it doesn't have the fatigue that usually I get from that. That's kind of unique about the Illumination. That's why I find it so appealing. But the res on the IE900 is superior. The tonality of both are excellent. I love the Illumination because I like the tonality. Again, Harman type tuning gives me lots of info. It doesn't seem to fatigue me. This is doing more of a unique melody MEST type of tuning in the mid to upper mid region, but I fucking love it. So again, like the mids, can't pick a winner. Like both of them, they both do what they do very well. The value is clearly the Moondrop Illumination because it's, I think, $799, and this is about double that. So there's no question that the Illumination is a better value. But I think clearly the IE900 for my library is the better set. The bass is better on the IE900 by a lot. The impact is great, and it doesn't really get in the way of other stuff. Let's take a look at the frequency graph really quick. This is the graph. There's two graphs. One is with the tips that come with this, and they have the tips like the end of the IMs have a kind of like a lattice, like a diffuser for the treble, and it doesn't alter, as you can see. The sub bass, the mid bass, the mids, or the upper mids really, or the upper mids is kind of where it starts to have an effect. But I did listening with the largest foam tips that Sennheiser includes, and I just can't quite get a great fit. And I think that once people are done with the tips that are included, they're going to tip roll. So you're not going to have that little lattice work, but you're still going to have the end of the nozzle is using basically the same theory. So it's a little bit different, but I think most of my impressions are based on using non-Sennheiser tips because you're going to be there eventually if you don't start it, or you're the person that can sit and wait and order directly from Sennheiser or people that sell it. I'm not that type. So my review's based on both, but I'm actually listening more with those tips because they fit, and they fit really good, and they block out everything else. I can focus on the music. So this is the graph. Looks very nice. If we compare it really quickly with the Unique Melody MEST Mark II, let me take one of these versions out. Take that one out. This is what you get if you use the included tips. And this is the Mark II. This is the area that is notable. Let me go ahead and throw in super reviews, and you can see he's calling for more of a Blessing 2 type of upper mids. I'm actually not. I'm looking for something that's a little more smooth and settled. My graph is partly based on the way that I enjoy the Unique Melody MEST so much, because I get the details, but I don't get the fatigue either. So I don't feel like I'm compromising. So these are two sets that really match my target. The Unique Melody MEST is about the same price as the IE900. I would really recommend the MEST Mark II over the IE900 unless you're really into dynamic drivers and you really want the best that you can get. Then in that case, I would think that the Sennheiser IE900 is probably your best bet, and you're going to have to pay for that. Let's go ahead and now get to the music. I just did a review for headphones yesterday, the HiFiman HE6se, or 2 days ago, and that started off really poor because I start my evaluation in the bass section, literally. So I'm starting right here. Listening to Big Boy, Kill Jill, Hatsune Miku, the Vocaloid, which is, you got to get through that before you get to the bass intro. It sounded fine. So there's elevated treble on this set, but she sounded clear. There was no harsh metallic edge to it. There was no sharpness to her voice. Remember, she's a computer-generated voice. She's not even real. She's a character in a hip-hop song. And I was fine enjoying that, and then the hit comes in. So there's two different experiences. One is when I put up with the intro and then note it, because I'm gonna be looking for that in the treble. And the other is when I just enjoy it on my way to the bass hit. And in this set, I enjoyed it on my way to the bass hit, like the MEST. That's got a lot to do with the mid to upper mid positioning. It's a little bit different from a lot of sets, but for something like this, I'm spared the fatigue and I get the nice bass hit. The bass punch is authoritative. It's got punch. It's good. I thought it was going to do that because of the graph, plus it's a dynamic driver, so I didn't really have any surprises. Next thing that I do is I go to Black Sabbath, Masters of Reality, and I'm looking at this. At about this moment, you'll notice the drums, he's playing the kit, and you see this bassist, his pulls and releases really, really fast. This is really difficult for a lot of drivers to get. The time between the pulls and the releases and how quick he's doing that turns into a blur, or you can't even catch it on a lot of stuff. This does it nicely. This does what the headphones yesterday couldn't do, and this does that better than the Illumination. It's just got a better bass presentation. So this test was passed with flying colors. Also Ozzy, who can be fatiguing on some sets because of the presentation on this, he sounds fine. This is great for vocalists. I'm going to bring this up real quick and just jump in line. He's right in position right now. This is Neil Young. I seen the needle and the damage done. Neil has a voice that can really get on you. If you're a fan of Harman type tuning and you also like Neil Young, you know that can sometimes be, it's really emphasizing part of and the harmonics of his voice. And Neil Young, face to face at a concert, which I've been to, he's got that voice. He's right in the spot right now. And you can also see that it's pretty much a guy on a stool with a guitar with his mouth very close to the mic. And he's got that kind of voice that can get on you. And I found this to be quite enjoyable. Neil Young, the needle and the damage done. Acoustic guitar on this set is really good. But let me get back to bass. So I did this and I thought that this sounded fantastic. I went to Can't Find My Way Home, which is right next to this. And I'm listening for the cymbal strikes at 27 and 38, and I noticed that my brain was being captured by the hi-hat opening and closing. Ginger Baker's really keeping his time with the hi-hat. And I was able to catch that, and when the cymbals came in, I didn't feel surprised because they're not subdued, but they sound a little bit toned down to other sets that have elevated lay treble. And that's probably related to the fact that it's a dynamic driver doing this. There's a kind of authenticity to it, but I was tuning in, and when the cymbals came in, Ginger Baker's hitting hard, I wasn't jolted by them like I sometimes am. And I don't ever recall being focused on the hi-hat opening and closing. But I was on this because part of the benefit of having upper mids that is slightly subdued is you tend to have more focus on the whole replay because there's stuff not right in your face. The vocalist is pulled back slightly. The drums, the perception of them and the basses are slightly pulled forward, but they're not, depending on the tuning, getting in the way of the vocalist. So there's there's also another set that I want to point out if you ever listen to this set. So we got this, we got the Mark II, and then there's shockingly, I wasn't planning on putting this in, the Shozy 1.1. It's doing the same thing. It's got more mid-bass and mids, but the way that it treated vocals and guitar and upper harmonics, I really was a fan of that. That's why I picked this over the 1.4, which has got just a little bit different tuning. I'm not really sure. I think the 1.4 was, the price was different, but I found it not to be that much different. Let me go ahead and take these out. I really am a fan of this kind of tuning because it allows me to listen to my library with more joy, I guess. And those cymbals actually sounded really good. Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits. I'm listening to the bassist. ABC, Dire Straits, Sultan of Swing. This would be on CD 2 track 1, disc 2 track 1. This sounded fucking epic, actually. This sounded really, really good. The bassist sounded excellent. The guitar sounded excellent. And again, I could hear the drummer keeping time, which I usually don't focus on that, but I did with this set. So this is this stomps the hell out of the EX1000. It's hard. The difference between this and Sony's flagship, which for a long time I considered to be reference level, this is on a total different level from the Sony EX1000. If you're a big fan of that, this is a lot better than that. If you're all about dynamic drivers, this is probably about as good as you can get. It's got when you have multiple drivers, hybrids, tribrids, quadbrids, there's sometimes this sense that you can hear, like the Tia Trio, which is right there. You can hear the low-frequency driver doing low-frequency driver things. It's very obvious that has a dynamic driver. You can hear it, and you can hear that there are other drivers. There's the cohesion of the Tia Trio and also the Forte are, when compared with a good performing single dynamic driver, this is beyond those two sets, in my opinion. There's a more, you don't have to talk about cohesive because there's nothing else taking care of it. There's one driver taking care of all the frequency, unlike a home system which would have tweeters, mids, woofers, and subwoofers, or just the three. Dynamic drivers, when done well and not overtasked, with my library doesn't do that, but maybe your library, you listen to orchestra, it might be too much sometimes, and maybe a 12BA set or something like that might be more appropriate. I find a well-tuned dynamic driver to be better than most everything when you're talking about the tonality of it. And in that sense, the IE900 is just fucking epic. So I'm listening to stuff like the hi-hats opening, closing on Blind Faith. I'm listening to pretty much the same event, the drummer kind of keeping time while the bassist pins down Sultans of Swing. Listen to the drummer on that track again. Listen to it with a good set. You can hear him doing his job, and I never really focused on him. There's that subdued mid to mid-bass transition is very beneficial when you want a casual listen. And that's how I prefer to listen, actually. That's why my number one set is the Unique Melody MEST Mark II. And the IR Z1R is a little bit more intense than the treble, but it's borderline for me because it's warmed up by the elevated bass. So this is a very good set. I listened to Dreams as well by Fleetwood Mac. That intro of that sounds so fucking good. Sorry to drop F-bombs, but this is a really good set. I'm going to do a comparison video with the Illumination. People said the IR Z1R, that's a hybrid. I mean, I could do a $1,500 battle video, but I would take the Unique Melody MEST if I had to take one. But if somebody said, what's the best dynamic driver, I'd say the IE900, because it plays back my library well. It does electronic bass hits like a boss. It does the fast pulls and releases of Black Sabbath, Sweet Leaf. It does cymbal strikes of Led Zeppelin on Hey Hey What Can I Do. It also does the guitar solos in All Along the Watchtower. Where Are We? The Girls with the Boobs. There's basically 3 solos in this song, and it seems like the quality increases. It's like they spliced together a couple, and the beginning of this is really not good. It's not the mix, it's almost every version I've ever heard. And then when it gets to the second solo, it's like a different session was combined with this, and the overtones of Jimi Hendrix's guitar are just a fucking joy to listen to. It's a really, really nice set. When I opened it up yesterday and I was looking at it, I left a... There's a weird habit that I have of putting stuff up. The Monarch got the first photo and graph, and I ended up liking the Clairvoyance. The Excalibur got the same treatment. I ended up liking the Oracle. I put a picture of this yesterday and said, this cable is ghetto as fuck. How can you do? And listen to it and just start falling in love with it. It's a fucking really good set. I'm sorry to drop F-bombs, but that's just a reflection of my joy. So this is the graph. It looks really, really good. Let me go ahead and take down the Mark II. This is what it looks like if you're going to get it and you're going to use standard tips. You're going to change a little bit starting from about 5K. Not too much and not in a way that's offensive. It's actually got a little bit less energy without the lattice that they're providing with their stock tips. both of them sounded good. I just get a better fit with standard tips, and I think a lot of people that buy this set, once they're done with those tips, are gonna just tip roll, or you're not gonna listen to your set. I don't know. So I figured listen to it in both versions, and I actually prefer it like this. Do I recommend the set? I do. If you're somebody that likes dynamic drivers and you think that hybrids, tribrids, quadrids, etc. are lacking on authenticity, you like a relaxed replay, but you don't want to give up the details, you found the illumination to be a little too smooth for your liking, or the Neo by 64 Audio to be a little too smooth, this would be something that you might prefer because it's got a little bit more late energy, but it's still got impact in the sub bass and mid bass. It's a really good set. I like it a lot. I'm surprised. I had bad feelings when I got the box, opened it up, because I thought, really? $1,500? This is the presentation's on par with $150 stuff. This is really all about music, and in a music sense, listening to my library, guitar solo, the harmonics, like All Along the Watchtower, fucking brilliant. This is a set that you just want to keep listening to longer and longer. That's why I knew that the tip situation was something to think about, because I would wear those tips out really quick. So this is the Sennheiser IE900. It does very well in the bass. It does good in the mids, like the MEST. It's got that kind of tuning. It's not like a Harman type set. I got nothing against that. The benchmark before this was a Harman tune set, which is illumination. I find that to be quite appealing. I still do, and I find that to be the better value because it's half the price of this. So they did a really good job with this, though. This is a really good set. I'll go ahead and let this go and put the video up. Good job for Sennheiser. I don't know if you really... $1,500? I don't know. A lot of people that watch my channel are doctors, etc. This would be something you probably want to try and have in your collection to put along with your favorite budget set, your custom, tribrid or quadrid or whatever you got. This would be something that you might want to have in your stable because it's very good. It's the best dynamic driver that I've tried to this point. I paid for this set. It wasn't sent to me. I have no affiliation with Sennheiser. That shit doesn't matter to me anyway, but I paid the money. And when I pay the money and I feel like I didn't get my money's worth, I let you guys know. I paid a lot for this. I don't like the way that it looks. I don't like the way that it's presented, but I bought it to listen to this, and it does that really well. So that's the Sennheiser IE900, and I'm finally out.